Al Franken had to go, but I was anticipating Al Franken on the Judiciary Committee for hearings like this. I have to say, some of the other members on the Democratic Judiciary Committee have really stepped up. Let's start, I guess. Well, let's start with the Kamala Harris one. Now, I'm not necessarily the biggest Kamala Harris fan for reasons that we've discussed here. She was a prosecutor, and she does quite good at least interrogating a witness. And in this instance, Brett Kavanaugh seems a little bit unprepared for this line of questioning.
Flummoxed.
A little bit flummoxed. Here she is asking the judge. Now, also be clear here. Brett Kavanaugh has not been going out. Just so you know, Brett Kavanaugh has not just been hanging out at home, waiting to get appointed to a position on the Supreme Court. He has sat on the D.C. Circuit Court. This is the second most powerful court in the country. And arguably, maybe it's incorrect to refer to it as the most powerful, but a lot of cases come through here. And virtually all of the administrative cases, all of the questions about how our government should function go through the court that he sits on. So there's a lot of reason why, even if he was never appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court, he should be rather careful about who he's talking to about issues that have at least some possibility, never mind plausibility, but in this case, possibility, maybe even probability of coming in front of his court, which makes this line of questioning extremely interesting, and his inability or refusal to sort of provide a direct answer that much more stunning. Here is Kamala Harris asking Brett Kavanaugh about any conversations he's had with specific people about Robert Mueller and the Mueller investigation.
Judge, have you ever discussed Special Counsel Mueller or his investigation with anyone?
Well, it's in the news every day.
Have you discussed it with anyone?
With other judges, I know.
Have you discussed
Pause
Mueller?
it for 1 second. All right, this is important because right now in his head, he can remember that he's talked about it with other judges. Makes total sense, right? In fact, that's probably the one set of people that you could talk to. If you were, sitting on the second most important court in the country with the notion that this could come before us, judges would be exactly the people that you would want to talk to about this, because you're not speaking out of class, right? In this instance. I mean, remember, you are sitting in a lifetime appointment on one of the most important federal judicial posts in the country. So you theoretically have a sense of like judicial temperament and propriety.
Have you discussed Mueller or his investigation with anyone at Kasowitz, Benson, and Torres, the law firm founded by Mark Kasowitz, President Trump's personal lawyer? Be sure about your answer, sir.
Well, I'm not remembering, but if you have something you want to...
Are you certain you've not had a conversation with anyone at that law firm?
Kasowitz, Benson.
Kasowitz, Benson, and
Pause it for
Torres.
1 second. Vice Principal Stevens?
I like how he's like, I'm not, but if you're trying to get me into a perjury charge, it would be cool if you could give me a heads up.
I mean, this thing where he's like trying to pronounce Kasowitz.
Marijuana?
he found a joint.
A doobie? I've never smoked a doobie before.
My house.
I mean, if you want me to answer the question about it, I need to know what it is. Because I don't know what it is you're talking about.
He really is making a face like that.
It's sort of amazing. Look at this face. All right, go back, because this is a guy who is like, can I use one of my friends' calls? Can I do that here? Can we just do a timeout for a second? I just need to gather myself. All right, go.
Remembering, but if you have something you want to,
Specifically,
Are you certain you've not had a conversation
said
with
I-
anyone at that law firm?
Kasowitz, Benson.
Kasowitz, Benson, and
Yeah.
Torres, which is the law firm founded by Mark Kasowitz,
Yeah.
who is President Trump's personal lawyer. Have you had any conversation about Robert Mueller or his investigation with anyone at that firm? Yes or no?
Well, is there a person you're talking about?
I'm asking you a very direct question, yes or no?
pause it.
I need
So
to know
because there could have been, he could have like, I sometimes interview copy machines at various law firms, and if I you're talking about a person.
Wait, you're giving me directions? Because I just want to be clear that you're directing me
human interpersonal communication here? Or?
the way we're doing, like it's in the Senate chamber. I just need to
Did I mention that I talk to judges?
Yes or no?
Well, is there a person you're talking about?
I'm asking you a very direct question, yes or no?
I need to know I'm not sure I know everyone who works at that law firm.
I don't think you need to. I think you need to know who you talked with. Who'd you talk to?
I don't think I'm not remembering, but I'm happy to be refreshed, or if you want to tell me who you're thinking
So
of who works.
are you saying that with all that you remember, you have an impeccable
Pause
memory?
it. Now, the reason why, I can understand someone being somewhat sympathetic. Like maybe this guy doesn't know. The answer you would give at this point, right, to be the most generous to Kavanaugh would be, to be honest, it's conceivable that I spoke to someone who works there and I was not aware that they work there. I talked to a lot of people. I could have casually said something to someone. It's possible they may work there and I would not be aware of it. So I did not knowingly speak to a person knowing that they worked at that law firm. That I can tell you for sure. But instead it's this person, Kasowitz.
It'd be weird not to know who the person
Well,
you're working for.
that's the other thing. I have never met an attorney who has talked to another attorney who didn't know what law firm they were at. Now, maybe you're a judge and you're just talking willy-nilly to people about a case that could come before you. Just willy-nilly. Talking to lawyers, you don't know where they're from, and you're saying anything, but it's very weird that he can't answer this question.
I sit in Union
And
Station.
I would also, it also leads me to believe that if he wants to see a name, then there's maybe multiple people that he spoke at that firm to.
You have an impeccable memory. You've been speaking for almost 8 hours, I think more, with this committee about all sorts of things you remember. Yeah. How can you not remember whether or not you had a conversation about Robert Mueller or his investigation with anyone at that law firm? This investigation has only been going on for so long, sir. So
right,
please
I'm not
answer
sure.
the question.
I'm just trying to think. Do I know anyone who works at that firm? I might know.
That's not my question. My question is, have you had a conversation with anyone at that firm about that investigation? It's a really specific question.
I would like to know the person you're thinking of, because what if there's
I think you're thinking of someone and you don't want to tell us. Who did you have a conversation with at that
I'm not going to...
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise an objection here. This town is really law firms. Law firms are full of people.
First of all, I'd like you to pause the clock. Thank you.
The clock is paused.
Thank you.
Pause the clock. Let me raise my objection.
Recognized.
This town is full of law firms. Law firms are full of people. Law firms have a lot of names. There are a lot of people who work at a lot of law firms.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now this is Senator Mike Lee is attempting to cover for Kavanaugh, who clearly needs a break, right? And there's a protester telling these senators to be a hero and vote no.
God bless.
None of them are, but
God bless all these
Law
protesters.
firms abound in this town, and there are a lot of them. They're constantly metastasizing. They break off. They form new firms. They're like rabbits. They spawn new firms. There is no possible way we can expect this witness to know who populates an entire firm that he's not even... My point of order, Mr. Chairman, is simply this. If there are names, if there is a list of names he can be given of the lawyers to whom she's referring, I think that's fine. But I think it's unfair to suggest that an entire law firm should be imputed into the witness's memory when he doesn't know who works at the law firm.
now pause it. Here's the thing, is that again, first of all, you don't have to know everybody in a law firm to know that you've spoken to a person at a law firm. Right? Like I can tell you people that I spoke to who go to a certain college, but I don't need to know everybody at the college.
Isn't that a little irresponsible of you to do that, though? Without knowing every single person from the janitor to the deans?
But the point is that, and Kavanaugh could certainly say, like, I've talked to a lot of lawyers about it, or I've talked to 2 lawyers about it. I don't know what law firm they worked at. If you tell me that they worked... But he doesn't want to say either that he spoke to someone specifically at that firm, or he doesn't want to say other people, right? Because now in his mind, he has to come up with the name of a lawyer with whom's affiliation he doesn't know, right? You can't say, oh, well, I spoke to this lawyer about it. No, I know they're not at Kasowitz. He has to come up with... And he could just say, like, I have no recollection of speaking to someone at the law at that firm, but he must be aware that they have something.
How could you possibly speak to somebody in law and not know that about the Muller case and not know that they're working for Trump's law firm?
That would be somewhat irresponsible for you to do as a judge, seeing as how you are one of literally 20 people in the country, maybe 21, who could end up hearing any part of that case.
Excuse me, point of order. That's incredibly unfair.
Like
I'm trying to keep an open mind in case I do need to rule on something like that.
I've been discussing Muller with you getting inside info for 20 minutes now. By the way, which law firm do you work at?
You don't work for Trump, do you?
Oh no, you work at Kasowitz. God damn it, that black woman's gonna ask me about it. I know it. The same one that humiliated Jeff Sessions.
Don't tell me your name.
Don't even tell me. I don't even want to know.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Whitehouse,
we had.
are you making a point of order?
Well,
Senator Whitehouse,
I'm trying to figure out what the rules are here because we had a very, very long discussion about whether or not points of order were in order because this is a hearing. And we were told that all of our points of order,
Senator Whitehouse,
all the documents.
There's never been a time in the 2 days where someone's made an inquiry of the chair where the chair hasn't recognized the member for a point of inquiry or a point of order.
And I've been recognized now, and I appreciate that. But my point is that if the rule is that nobody on our side can make a point of order, then it ought not to be appropriate for Senator Lee to start making points of order after all of ours were summarily silenced on the basis that we were in a hearing and not in an executive session. If we've moved out of hearing and into executive session, then I'm more than happy to make motions.
Senator Whitehouse, if the mere fact that you're speaking right now means that you've been allowed to make a point of order, the matter that you're talking about yesterday was a motion that the chair
said was out of order because it was an adjournment motion that would have required us to be in executive session. Anyone who want to make an inquiry of the chair may do so, but we will limit it to that before we go back to Senator Harris.
Very good. That's the right result.
Sir, please answer the question.
I don't know everyone who works at that law firm, Senator.
And have you had any discussion with anyone ever about Bob Mueller and or his investigation?
Pause it. Now, what's going to be interesting in his response here is, again, he is going to, for the third or fourth time, pull another one of these, like, people? Kasowitz? It's going to be slightly more sophisticated, but not much more sophisticated.
Not much.
Right? Like, it's almost the equivalent of him saying, like, well, I mean, I've talked to people about different Bobs in my life. Go ahead.
So you said Bob Mueller, so have I ever had a discussion about Bob Mueller? I used to work in the administration with Bob Mueller.
What about his investigation? Have you had a conversation with anyone about his investigation?
I'm sure I've talked to fellow judges
Anyone aside from fellow judges?
about Bob Mueller.
About his investigation, sir? I'll ask again.
But-
I asked the question just a minute ago. I'm surprised you forgot. Have you had this conversation with anyone about the investigation that Bob Mueller is conducting regarding Russia interference with our election or any other matter?
The fact that it's ongoing, it's a topic in the news every day. I talked to fellow judges about it. It's in our, it's in the courthouse in the District of Columbia. So I guess
And I'll ask
the
you
answer to
one
that
last
is
time.
yes. So the answer is yes.
Okay, and did you talk with anyone at Kasowitz, Benson, and Torres?
You asked me that. I need to know who works there.
I think you can answer the question without me giving you a list of all employees of that law firm.
Well, actually, I can't.
Why not?
Because I don't know who works there.
So that's the only way you would know who you spoke with? I want to understand your response to my question, because it's a very direct one. Did you speak with anyone at that law firm about the Mueller investigation? It's a very direct question.
Right. I'd be surprised, but I don't know anyone. I don't know if I don't know everyone who works at that law firm. So I just want to be careful, because your question was and or. So I want to be very literal.
That's fine. I'll ask a more direct question if that's helpful to you. Did you speak with anyone at that law firm about Bob Mueller's investigation?
I'm not remembering anything like that, but I want to know a roster of people, and I want to know more.
So you're not denying that you spoke with
Well,
anyone?
I said I don't remember anything like that.
Okay. I'll move on. Clearly, you're not going to answer the question.
I mean,
I think now we're finally reaching a point of agreement, Senator.
it's sort of weird that it takes him 8 minutes to say, not that I remember. Right? Like, he didn't say anything other than not that I remember. And that seems to me to be something that you could say very early in that exchange, unless you realize, like, I've got no other option here. And he had a lot of time to think about that. Mike Lee gave him a lot of time. And those protesters, God bless their heart, gave him a little bit more time to, like, gather, presumably turn to his counsel, any of the white supremacists sitting around him. Yeah. I joke. And ask him, like, how should I handle
Stop
this?
texting 4chan memes to each other. God damn it. I need some advice.
Very, very strange. Now, and I will say this, it's quite possible Kamala Harris was completely on a fishing expedition. She had absolutely no reason to believe, but if so, she has a very good sense of where to cast. Because
she does. She actually had now I'm reminded she had an exchange with Sessions several months ago on a Russia hearing that was very similar. And to be fair to Sessions, that was like she definitely was getting him into, I think, a perjury charge. So he did need to be like, and he was just like, I'm not going to, I'm going to be very precise. Like, and it was like, fair enough. You should be, because you literally, if anything's functioning, could be landing yourself in jail. But she's very, very good at that. Yeah.
We will find out if there is something to substantiate her asking that question. And if there is, that's going to be a little bit problematic for Kavanaugh, seems to me.
Yeah, on the Kamala Harris tip, like, I have criticized her at times that a lot of the issues I have with her are as a representative of the carceral state. And it's just like, she's a prosecutor. This is what she does. You know, she goes after people. She catches them lying. She makes them sweat. But if anybody deserves that kind of treatment, it's these people. It's these ghouls. So good for her.
It's necessary to give them this kind of treatment. Like, I mean, they deserve it, and it's like
every Republican should be facing tribunals for like the rest of their life.
Exactly. If you're a member of this Republican Party, you should face national, local, national, and international courts and tribunals of every kind.
We will, incidentally, get to the op-ed in the Times. Don't worry about that.
Well, it's good to know that there's people on the inside who really are looking out for the country.
Exactly.